Oh, is it?
Okay, Israel. I hope everybody is doing well today. Hope everybody's weekend was productive and got a lot of things accomplished. And
It's with it, but not within.
I got with.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so once again, shalom everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. Shout out Calvacab and his congregation in Guatemala and all throughout California and Georgia. Hope y'all brothers doing right. Families and sisters too. Shout out Kazaki SOW of Virginia with his congregation. Shout out Quatazop SOW Houston, and shout out SOW Rochester, New York, Zion. Hope y'all brothers and sisters doing well today. Today's title, Shalom Bakar. Hope y'all brothers doing well today. Today's title was How Our Malignant Root Manifests Itself with the Brotherhood, Part 50. It feels like that because we're constantly on this topic, but I think we have to exhaust this and get as much as we can out of this topic because there's a lot there. And the sicknesses that we deal with on a daily basis is why we keep falling short with the Lord. So I think today will be the last one that we get to. That's the goal. After this, we'll continue back on and finish our St. John 15 and finish that topic and move on to the next topic. But once again, just a quick refresher. Disdain. We're still dealing with this definition of disdain, because that disdain and that hatred and that ill outlook we have one to another is that aspect of our spirit that was never changed. That part of our spirit the Most High never took out of us. So regardless of all the information, the knowledge, the laws, the scriptures, none of that matters if we don't learn how to fix this negative, malignant root, which manifests itself in scorning and disdain for our brothers and a contemning towards the people around us. So if we don't really hyper-focus on these type of concepts, a lot of the good works that we do in the name of the Lord will be kind of discounted if we don't work on the real things Christ instructed us to focus on. Speaking of Christ, we're going to, before we go into Christ, which is Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 through 5, that's our first verse. Kariah, let's get this definition of disdain.
I got you. Right?
Oh, you got it? I think perfect. No, he's got it. He's got it.
I got you. Disdain, contempt, scorn, a passion excited in noble mind.
This contempt and this scornfulness from the perspective of a person that has superior rank, position, education, experience. It's not necessarily just rank. It's just you might have more experience in an arena than another person. You might not have had all the different obstacles somebody else might have went through. And that's contempt and scorn from a person that has perceived greater leverage. And I hope we can kind of understand it from that perspective. If you have leverage over somebody, educationally, experience, age, and you use that leverage and experience to justify contemning or seeing the weakness in the person around you, seeing how a person is unfit to be respected equally or given the same amount of attention and energy. Okay, so it says in noble minds, because 3 weeks ago we focused on the scorning and the contemning from persons that were of lower rank and lower prestige,
lower status,
and we were dealing with that for the last few weeks. And yet last week and this week we're focusing on that perspective from people of rank and how that has to be checked and brought out also. So continue.
Con, in noble minds by the hatred or detestation of what is mean and dishonorable.
And a lot of our people, when you work with your brothers every day, you realize you obviously see the flaws. But our people have the sickness of once we see the flaws, we learn to hate that person because of their flaws. We learn to lose respect with the people that we work with every day because of the flaws are glaring, and it doesn't seem like these flaws will ever get fixed, at least in our minds.
And we operate in the spirit of disgust with people.
Done.
And that disgust that we operate in, we don't think emanates on people, but it emanates and we project it on people.
Yep, and we projected.
We don't think they know.
Yeah.
But
Even if we do, we don't give a shit enough to figure it out. God. There's some people that know and still don't give a damn, and they still keep rolling. Like that's okay.
Bad. That's not good either.
But that ego and bravado is heavily in us. What this shows is we bang Esau all the time about their classism and how their policies are geared towards keeping one group of people on the bottom and another one on the top. But we have that same type of thinking. It starts with how Esau sits back here and looks at our people as less than human. He looks at our brothers and sisters who aren't legally over here in the United States. They look down on them and they have a detestation for them, versus sitting back here and looking at them as equal citizens that should have an opportunity for rights also. I remember back in the day when a lot of Levi was trying to get over here, how they were sitting back here giving so much hatred and so much disrespect, and they would call them so many negative connotations when they were trying to get over here and better their conditions. But if Esau sits back here when Israel is getting bombed by the Iranians, they can be refugees and go to Cyprus
or South Africa,
or South Africa, or really it's been going on in Cyprus. They've been, a lot of them, when all this crazy is going on, they were getting the hell out of there and getting to Cyprus. And the Cyprus government's like, oh shit, they're coming up here because you're going to look up, they're going to be citizens, then they're going to sit back here and have land rights, then they're going to start taking over property, and then Cyprus is going to be, there's going to be movements for Cyprus to be part of Israel over time.
Yeah.
Because that's how it goes. But if we're sitting back here leaving for persecution, or there's no money, there's no way to survive, then there's hatred and there's vitriol that comes from everybody, and there's a disgust that the world has for our people that are leaving oppressed conditions.
But they came here illegally too.
That's the point. And they took out the people that were living here illegally. We're going through all this just to explain that we can clearly see that with the nations. But what we don't also understand is we treated our people the same way. Hopefully we'll have time, but we'll try to get to Nehemiah chapter 5. And Nehemiah chapter 5 clearly explains how when the rich had leverage over the poor were getting sold to slavery. The poor were sitting back here getting their children taken from them, their property seized, just because they needed food and basic necessities, because they were all gave up their jobs and careers to help build the wall in Jerusalem. Yes, what you gonna say?
I was gonna say that type of hatred is happening amongst our people even right now.
Huh?
Because we see what's happening in California, and the riots, and how American citizens are treating illegals that are coming over crossing the border. But at the same time, you look at the Mexican news in Mexico City. There's been movements and been riots about Guatemalans and people coming from Belize and countries below Mexico.
Honduras.
Honduras. Honduras, yeah. They don't want them over in Mexico either.
Yeah.
They don't want their brothers, Guatemalans, Hondurans, Salvadorians, they don't want them coming to Mexico.
Yeah.
For the same reason. Because of the prices, or they're taking their jobs, or taking their housing, or they just don't like them. Because they're so classist.
There's a lot of classism and hatred out there in those countries. When I was in Guatemala for a very short time, there was beef with El Salvadorians.
All the time.
And that's just how it is. There's just these beefs and these little cliques over hundreds of years that you just would never know unless you go out to those countries or listen to the news like you're listening. So that hatred is really prevalent in us. And listen, you're going to sit back and look at black on black crime. There's still classism there. There's still hatred for the drug dealer, has a hatred and a need for the person that's on drugs.
Yeah.
There's no respect and there's no love, and there's complete exploitation. The idea of exploiting one person for your gain is hatred. So we understand it. And we have to go into this concept to get us to understand how to work our way out of that hatred to get on Christ's good side. So let's go to Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 through 5.
Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Judge not that ye...
Matter of fact, I'm so sorry. Finish that disdain.
Disdain, contempt, scorn, a passion excited in noble minds, by the hatred or detestation of what is mean and dishonorable.
What is perceived to be below average or dishonorable. Read on.
And implying a consciousness of superiority of mind.
And that is something that every single one of us has to make sure we never allow to fester too much into us. The scripture says knowledge does what?
Puffs up.
Knowledge puffs up. So as soon as you start gaining knowledge and information, there is an automatic battle in each and every one of us. As soon as you start learning breakdowns, as soon as you start learning how to have maintenance over yourself and learn how to discipline and fight what's inside of you, there is a part of you that wants to look down on people who ain't doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's a part of you that doesn't want to respect the person that's not fighting their battle like you're fighting your battle.
Because
Yeah.
now you
I
find
always joke about
Yeah.
diet snobs. Like when you start eating right and you start making the right decision, and I'm trying to get myself on that path now. And you see brothers sitting back here scarfing down carbs out and drinking sugars and drinking bad sugars. You're like,
Sugar drinks.
you're like, that's a sugary drink. That's not really good for your body. Right? I'm just saying, that's not good for you. And if you're really trying to shave down, you might want to change your drink choices. Get rid of your Gatorades and drink more water.
Yeah.
Then if you really want to go to the next level, then you want to throw some Celtic salt in the water to activate the water so it can digest into your body better, so you can absorb what you're drinking.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But do what you got to do. It's cool. Then you sit back, brothers eating Whataburgers and fries. You're like, you know how many calories that is, bro? I'm just saying. Just a human being is supposed to consume 2,000 calories a day.
So funny.
And that looks like a double burger with some fries and a drink. That's around 1,800 calories. I'm not sure if you're going to eat anything else today or if you've eaten anything earlier in the day, but I'm just saying. You're 200 calories away, bro. And then that Gatorade is going to get you to around 23. But what's going on with you? How's your day going, bro?
I'm enjoying my Gatorade, man. I'm enjoying the hydration.
I'm just saying. I'm bringing it up because that's the part of your brain that wants to sit back here and let everybody know that you're growing, and that they're not.
Yeah.
And that, hey, if you want to get to this level, there's levels to this, my friend.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're going to have to. This is what you're going to do if you want to get to this level. And if not, it's cool, man. It's just your choice, man. But, it's up to you. Point is this: I'm bringing something out that every single one of us, if we're growing in something, there's a part of you inside that wants to let everybody else know what you're doing. And it's something that we have to break out of ourselves. This idea of superiority. Or you might sit back here and be super mechanically inclined, and then the person around you has two left feet. And they're just klutzes. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. Party wants to be like, when is this guy going to ever figure it out? Why is this guy working with me today? Because I'm just carrying. It's just me, and I got another body here at the job. When is he ever going to figure it out? But that's the thinking of superiority in the realm that you're strong in. And there is pride there, because just because you're strong in one arena doesn't mean you're that same way in every arena. So the humility is about, okay, can I understand and know what I am here and not let my talent or my skills get in the way of having love and mercy and consideration to people who might not have the abilities I have. They might not ever have the abilities I have. But can I still look at them as brothers, and can I use my talents and abilities and acknowledge that my talents and abilities are there to be of service, to carry the weight whenever it's needed. We don't look at our talents and our ability as things that you have to have, that the Most High pairs you with other people that need that strength that you have. We want to sit back here and roll with people that are equally connected or equally talented as we are. That's what we think is fair. But that's not how the Most High puts and connects people together. He puts certain people together with strengths. And then you might not have those strengths, but you need what this person has to help balance you out. And then the person with the strength has what they have so they can be of service to everyone else. But we don't look at life that way. And that's where the pride and the anger and the frustration kicks in with how the Most High pairs us together. Okay? We're going to prove that though. Or a supposedly superiority of mind. Read on.
Or a supposed superiority of mind. Or a supposed superiority.
Because there's a thought that because we are talented in certain things, we have the right to all of a sudden start correcting and chastising and looking down on people who don't have those capabilities. Okay? So, tying that in with the verses, go to Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 through 5.
Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Judge not that ye be not judged.
He says, judge not that ye not be judged. Because what we don't understand is, with this level of pride and ego that we have towards one another, there's this thinking that if you don't have this capability or you show this weakness, then I don't need to be around you. I don't think it's necessary to even work with this guy. This guy is bringing me down. If there's ever that part of you when you're working with somebody and they're stumbling and they're falling and they're making mistakes, and that pull on you is to make you think this guy's pulling me down, this guy ain't changing, this guy is an aggravation, this guy is bringing me stress. We're going to sit back here and tie in. I want to sit back and go to this next verse to explain what the judging is. I don't want to just fill the words in. When you sit back and read, judge not that ye not be judged, what does that mean specifically? Let's go to Matthew chapter 9, verse 10 through 13. We went through this last week, but I want to go here again. Matthew chapter 9, verse 10 through 13, kind of gives us a glimpse into what judging is. Okay?
Matthew chapter 9 and verse 10 reads, And it came to pass, as Yahushua sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples.
Now we know what those publicans are. Those publicans were tax collectors, and those tax collectors were looked upon as the dregs of society. They were the ones who sat back here and collected their money by any means necessary. Extortion, physical violence. This is another thing that publicans did. Say, for instance, the Romans said, listen, this young man or this family owes 50 pieces of silver. What the publican would do is say, okay, the Romans said you owe 80 pieces of silver. So
Get 30 off top.
I'm going to sit back here and get a 30 piece of interest from me. And this is why the Jews hated them. This is why the Jews couldn't stand these dudes. Because they were sitting back here and getting paid off of your misfortune. But they had the weight of the Roman government backing them. So, hey, the Romans said it's 80. What, you going to sit back and argue with them?
No.
You can't argue with them. So you got to pay this 80, but it was really 50. What the tax collector was just adding surcharges and fees that were unfair. And that was another reason why the publicans were hated. So once again, these are blatant, cruel, negative, hateful, premeditated decisions that the publicans were behind and everybody knew about it. So listen, those are justifiable reasons to have beef with them. But Christ was still dealing with people that were justifiably looked upon as hateful. So that means blatant negative people. Christ was with blatantly negative people. A lot of times we want to sit back and withdraw ourselves from blatantly negative people. Why? Because it pisses us off. It frustrates us. It angers us. Being around negative people piss you off. I can't stand liars. How many of you heard that before? I can't stand liars. I can't stand fake blankety ass suckers. You get my point. I can't stand this type of person. I can't stand that type of person. And that label that we have makes us literally want to disconnect ourselves from working with certain type of people that the Most High brings us close together with. And these type of scenarios fuel arguments and fights and hostility and hatred. So, with that being the case, read on.
Verse 11. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners?
And that what it's letting us know that how our people back in the day operated is, why in the hell even associate yourself with negative people? Why even associate yourself with people that you can't trust? People that have these deficiencies, people that have these sicknesses, people that have this pride. And in the way it's manifested today is many times over the years we'll sit back and say brothers can never come back and get taught. Brothers can never come back to the school. I remember back at the Passover, it was said years ago that there's certain elders that made mistakes, and they said they will never be allowed to come back to the Passover again. I'm like, damn, how can you make decrees that you can't even come to the Passover ever? But whatever negative was done, they deemed, I don't have to be around you or deal with you again. Playing that game puts you under a slippery slope where the Most High starts to really look at you. Now, there's a difference between having a person get taught the scriptures and having them get an access to Christ than sitting back here and working completely next to you every single day. But you still have to have the capacity to love and give people opportunities and shots versus just labeling somebody and cutting them off. So read on.
Come. Verse 12. But when Yahushua heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick.
What is Christ saying? Christ is saying, listen, the majority of your energy shouldn't just be geared towards people who know better. The majority of your energy should be geared towards the people who need the greatest attention. The ones who are flawed. The ones who have issues. The ones who haven't figured it out. But nature, human nature in us, is to sit back here and detach from the person that's not picking it up fast enough. Detach ourselves from the person who hasn't figured it out yet. That part of that mechanism in us that wants to separate ourselves from the weak is that malignant root that we have to break. What Christ is explaining is the majority of your energy shouldn't be with the people who know better. The majority of your energy should be with the ones who need greater attention and need greater development. But a lot of times, the idea of redeveloping and reteaching can seem like a high obstacle that you might not want to tap into again. Listen, the funny thing is, our job is to reteach people from the bottom up. There's going to come a point after the school is finished and everything is settled and the Most High might split us and sit back here and have to go to different cities and expand the school. Who's going to be willing to go out here and do this again and replicate the love, replicate the patience, replicate having to carry the majority of the burdens until work is trained or help is trained up? Because that's the hard part. The hard part is doing the majority of this work and you have to carry it until the weak get strong enough to actually ease the burden from you. I remember how it was 2018 when there wasn't a lot of help. We were all hands on deck all the time, 24/7, 365. Then over time, the Most High gradually brought this person here, brought this help here, brought this person back, brought this person back, removed this person, brought this person back. And every new person that comes in, you're starting from scratch. You start listening to the brother's story, listening to the issues, getting to know people, counseling, listening, teaching, redirecting, teaching, redirecting, 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 redirecting. I can't count on my hands how many times I've been told from brothers and sisters, it's easier that I do the job alone than to sit back here and keep training this person. Have you not heard that before?
Yeah.
The idea of training and reteaching and teaching 4 and 5 times slows up my pace. It's easier. I just go and do my job and get moving. There's something there. There's something there that we have to be willing to attack and break inside of us if we want to stay connected with the Heavenly Father. Okay, so let's keep going. Verse 13.
Come, but go ye and learn what that means.
Christ is saying, go and figure that out. Figure out, you're sitting back here spending all your time with other Pharisees and other doctors of the law. Why are you spending all your time with doctors of the law versus getting your time to the people that don't understand the power of the law? Because the truth is, when the Most High is dealing with the strength and the ignoble mind might need more than just you giving a person some words. They need your counsel, and they need your physical example. They need your physical example. This is why mothers have issues with kids. Moms have issues with kids because a mom wants to tell a kid to just do this and then go about and watch their novellas and their television afterwards. They want to give an order and the child receives the information, execute it, so they can go back to their day. But the problem with children, you got to give an order and then go back to them, double check, triple check, walk them through it 3, 4, 5, 6 times until eventually over 30 times they'll figure it out. That's what makes parenting difficult. The repetition it takes to get a person to understand what you're trying to drive to them. But that's what makes teaching difficult. Everybody wants to be a teacher until they realize what teaching looks like. Teaching is mostly about showing and maintaining the enthusiasm to show, re-show, triple show, 4 times show until they get it. Be a servant to showing a person how to do things the right way and not being angry about the time that you're losing and the exhaustion behind the reteaching. And this is what Christ is trying to get these Pharisees to understand. It's about the amount of energy you're putting into getting the sick right. Because that's where the glory is. The glory is how much of your life did you sit back and inconvenience so that you give a person a chance. A chance based upon their learning levels, their understanding levels, their ability to pick things up. Because everybody doesn't pick things up as fast as you do. And that vexes people. Right or wrong. That vexes most people. You try to tell somebody something once or twice, and they don't pick it up at that, you don't want to do it no more. That's hatred in us. The hatred is not one to keep giving people the time they need. Because now you're a servant. And nobody likes to feel that way. The person that can figure things out doesn't want to have to be stuck losing their life making sure somebody who is sick figures it out. There's no joy in that. The joy we find is you tell somebody something once or twice, they pick it up, pay it forward, brother, pay it forward, man. I feel good, man. But the real work is I got to carry this burden until they get it. And that takes years. Anyway, let's keep going.
Come, I will have mercy and not sacrifice.
Because you know what? In order to have mercy and live a life that's focused on mercy, who gains and who loses? The sick gains from mercy. But what Christ isn't going to hyper-focus on is with all the mercy that you're giving somebody, they get the benefit of it and you don't. And this is the issue that the noble mind hates. Why do I have to lose so that this sick person might figure it out? That is the disdain that we have for the sick. For every new person that comes in, Are you prepared to lose your vitality, your time, energy you might want to direct different ways so that somebody else has a chance? That's what teaching is. That's what successful teaching is. That's the type of teaching the Most High honors. Most of us, after a long day's work, want to shut it down and do them. We don't want to sit back here, sacrifice, and hear other people's problems. Especially when you got problems at your own house that you got to fix. We want to sit back here and deal with everybody's problems. Then when you get home, you lost 3 hours dealing with these people's problems. Now you got to go home and you got a world of problems in the house. So what ends up happening? Who loses?
Yeah.
You lose. Well, the house will get it. But after the house gets developed, guess what's going to happen? The house will get less than what the person that was on the phone got.
Yeah.
But then after you give the people at home what they need, then at night, you ain't getting no sleep. And 6 o'clock is coming. Or 4:30 is coming. How about that? 4:30 is here. And you just sat back here and dealt with all the weight of the world at home. But before that, everybody else came first.
Yeah.
Then you get the questions. Why are we always the last ones to get the help in a counseling? How come you can sit back here and be this counselor for everybody else, but I don't get that time?
Yeah.
You know the reason that the people at home don't get that time? Because we're burnt out and we want to be selfish when we get home. And the question in our head is, when am I going to get time? But the answer to that question is you're not going to get time. Because mercy matters. Mercy was the most important thing. What we want to do is sacrifice and go home and live our life. And this is what Christ is. I'm going to accept mercy and not sacrifice. Because it's harder to have mercy every day with your brother than just go to the temple and give an animal you already have hundreds of at the house. It's harder to have mercy on your brother than to write a check for the problem. Now, if that's all you can do, that's great. But the Most High is always demanding what?
More.
Usury. And more. And him having us demand more than us is we're demanded to have mercy and direct energy and focus on the people who need it to our detriment. That's why Christ said his life was a ransom for others.
Yeah.
That's what that means. Anyway, let's continue.
For I am not come to call the righteous.
It does this. The glory ain't in going and yelling and cussing at Israelites who know better already. That is a waste of time. Debates and debates and debates with people who know the scriptures. The work is in trying to get Israelites who can't figure it out how to figure it out. Read on.
But sinners to repentance.
That is where the glory is in. Can you get sinners to be inspired to change what's inside of them and learn how to cleave more to the Heavenly Father? That is the meaning or the focus of our direction the Most High is taking us to. Can we find pleasure in bringing sinners to repentance? But that is the dirty, ugly, nasty job. Because sinners are there because they're sinning. And there's a lot of negative in them. And it requires a lot of time, patience, and mercy to help rehabilitate Israel that sins over and over and over again. So when the scripture says, forgive thy brother 70 times 7, he means that. Can I sit back here and muster up the love to forgive my brother 70 times 7? That's the hard work. Can you find it inside of you to keep giving your people another chance to start back over again to work with? What you gonna say?
No, I'm just saying the electric.
Well, what about the
You want
election?
to supercharge the computer to mess it up.
Yeah. So, are we done with that verse? We're done with that verse. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 7, verse 2 now.
Matthew 7:2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged.
This is the truth. He says the same way that you can see what you're good at and see how you're stronger in certain arenas than other people, and then automatically have a lack of respect for people who haven't figured out things that you've already figured out. If that's how you look at people and you esteem people low because they can't pick up things you picked up, the Most High is going to do the same thing to you. The Most High and Christ are going to sit back here for all the things Christ has accomplished and mastered in himself. He's going to judge you based upon all the things he has accomplished versus all the things you couldn't accomplish. That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought. Because how do we sit back here and judge Israel? Listen, one of the things this brother don't study the Bible. What's this problem? Why are you in the Bible school and don't study? This guy ain't going to make it. Or I don't even want to be around this guy because he can't figure it out. How many times do I got to tell this brother over and over and over to change these things? The reality is this. He's going to look at you the same way because you might be able to handle one or two things. What about the things you're struggling? The things you haven't figured out? He's like, if you want to sit back here and be merciless on the people who haven't overcome what's inside of them, then the Most High is going to be merciless on the things you haven't overcome inside of you. And that's the scary thing. And that's how he keeps everybody in check. It's easy to sit back here if you're naturally left-brained, mechanically brained, to sit back and solve problems. But you're trying to sit back here and get a right-brained person who is a writer and a poet to sit back and learn how to look at things left-brained. But then you're mad because this person can't figure it out. Well, then you know what? What about the things your left brain can't comprehend that the right brain person can? And because he is or she is right-brained, has better spiritual aspects to her or he than you. It goes both ways. And if we don't learn how to have mercy on the people around us based upon the acknowledgement of our own shortcomings, then the Most High is going to sit back here and sting us. Because a lot of times this hatred and this disdain that we have for one another is one-sided. And we never look at the things that we fall short on. And that's part of that hatred that's inside of us that has to get fixed.
And the Most High's response is, he says, technically, he said, what measure that ye meet, ye shall be met with the measure that ye meet. Mm-hmm. So whatever measure you have for other people, the Father has a measure for you.
Yeah.
But it's the same exact measure. Because he requites, meaning he returns, or he pays back, or he just changes the mirror, the angle of the mirror.
Yeah.
In the areas that you're weak at.
In the area, and that's all he's showing. Yeah. You might be stronger than this person in this arena, but this other person's got you beat in this arena. So why do you have the right to start having this? Because you know the problem is, in our mind, we might say, man, you know what? I don't have hatred for the brother. He just kind of pissed me off a little bit. Well, where do you think the hatred starts? With the vexation that you keep playing with. Yes.
And speaking of that, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but well, how do you check those thoughts, those blatant thoughts?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
We'll definitely get there because that's why I'm trying to break it down and not just make it about, oh, I hate this brother. It's the aggravation that pops off in you is what has to get attacked and killed. Why am I vexed that this person isn't all the way grown in his battle? Why am I angry he hasn't grown in his battle? The Most High should be angry, not me. Why am I angry? Because I'm a hateful person. How about that? That's what he's showing. And because it's there, we read in Esdras that malignant root was never taken out. So you have to, one, know it's in you, acknowledge it, and now from here on out, work on staying on top of it.
But the purpose of the malignant root
is the malignant root's there, yeah.
How you're going to manage the malignant root in you.
Well, that's what Christ is looking at. How are you managing and trying to stave off the hatred that's inside of you? Whether there's that scorner that just can't take correction, And I just want to look at the weakness in you to justify my lack of changing, or the disgust from a person on top that doesn't want to keep giving and tolerating how long it takes for you to figure it out. It's hatred on both ends that has to be acknowledged and managed and controlled. But let's continue in verse 2.
Come, Matthew 7:2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again.
He's letting you know how you look at people, and these lofty expectations that you got on people. The Most High is going to have those same lofty expectations in arenas that you're weak in. Because you want to have lofty expectations on men and sisters in arenas that they're not naturally gifted in. And you lose respect for them because they can't figure it out. Because I've taught them, I've painted the picture as clear as possible. They just ain't going to get it. And then what we do is we give up on them.
First is a lost cause.
We give up on them. We try less. We don't find it in ourselves to dig a little deeper, to reach out more. And that's that hatred. But let's continue.
We hate our job. We have to be around.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the I'm gonna call it the Elijah complex, which is we'll get jealous from the Most High, so to speak. That's the cover.
I'm so zealous. I'm the only righteous person in the northern kingdom. I'm the only righteous person in the northern kingdom. Everybody else is wicked, and I'm just zealous and I'm angry for you because of all the things you gotta suffer, Lord. I don't understand how you deal with these people. Yeah.
But at the same time, the Most High said, get back up, go teach them again.
But the problem was, he tried to show him in 3 ways that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And the Most High said, listen, man.
Take your mantle off.
Listen. You're going to go over here, and Elisha's going to sit back here and be your replacement.
Yeah.
And he was his replacement because he lost patience.
Okay.
He lost the ability to understand that there's still good there. And that's what we lose. You can't counsel, you can't develop, and you can't work with people because you forget and you lose the idea that there's still good amongst all the sickness. This is why a lot of times as children, we have beef with our parents. Because all we can hyper-focus on is what they didn't do right, what they didn't do well. This is how families spread apart, break apart. Husbands and wives go their separate ways because whatever they went through, whatever flaw you have in your heart, you forget how your life could have been way worse than what it is.
Yeah.
Your family could have been way worse than what it was. My family was the monsters. It's horrible.
The Monsters.
I said the Monsters, old school. You ever seen that movie? It's old. It's really old shit. The Monsters. The Monsters. The old black and white Monsters.
Eddie Munster.
Adam's Family?
No, the Monsters was before the Adams. Well, it was around the same time, but it was the Monsters. Anyway, it's a spin-off of the Adams Family, but it was horrible. Listen, their parents were like The Walking Dead. It wasn't good. They were trying to keep it fair, but there were many flaws with the Monsters. What am I trying to say? All I'm trying to say, you ask the person that was in the household, it was hell on earth. And maybe it was. But if you're going to sit back here and be acceptable to the Heavenly Father, you have to have the ability to still retrieve and think of the idea that there was still good there. It's nothing in life is all bad and no good. Nothing. And you have to be able to sit back here and pull the good, even though there's obvious bad. And it could be a lot of bad, because if you can't do that, how can you sit back here and stay in the right spirit and give to those people when they need it? This is what you have to have in marriage. The capacity that even when things are going bad, I have to see the good. If you can do that, you can maintain your marriage. You can maintain your family. You can maintain relationships with sick brothers who are stumbling, with sick sisters who you might not think will ever figure it out. These are the components you need to keep giving. Because this is what was happening with these Pharisees. They gave up on their people. When all you're doing is working, hanging out with other Pharisees and other knowledge, learning guys, you gave up on your nation. So your nation is suffering, getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. You're looking down on them, and you're not even trying to rehabilitate. And this is the mode that we get into. We get into that mode of not wanting to extend out, not wanting to give people additional chances. And what we do is we stunt our growth, and we're putting ourselves on the chopping block, because if we're not going to keep giving our people chances, why should Christ keep giving you chances? And that's the scary thing. So let's continue in
Verse 3.
Yeah.
Matthew 7:3. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye?
Because this goes into that outlook aspect I was bringing out. The reason that we don't reach out and give again, because we're focusing on another person, the lower ranking man's sickness. We're focusing on how sloppy this sister is, how sloppy this brother is, how out the spirit this person is. And we can't get that out of our mind. How out the spirit, how hurtful, how negative this person is. Read on.
But considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye.
And we can't realize there's a mote there, which is a small stick. We have a beam in our eye because the Most High is daily loading us with benefits, even though we're full of crap. We forget how the Most High keeps working with us despite our deficiencies. He keeps giving us opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. This is what Christ coming down was all about. Not sitting back here and just giving us the death sentence over one mistake. We have an entire life. Now, with Christ's death, Christ's life and death, he came down to give us an entire lifetime of works to present to the Most High for judgment. Versus one sin and we're dead. One or two mistakes and we're out of there. So what did Christ really do upon coming, living, and dying? He bought us time. Now, if Christ sat back here and his whole one of his major purposes was to come down here, die, and give us time, why can't you give your brother time? Why can't you give your sister time? Hell, why can't you give them their entire lifetime? To show you, or to show the Most High that they're ready to change. And he says, if you can't give your brother or your sister the time they need to change, why should Christ give you all this time in order for you to figure it out? That's what he's going to measure you the same way you measure the sick. Because there is a limit that we have in our mind as to how much shit we're going to take before I stop giving, before I stop trying, before I stop wholeheartedly meditating on how to help you. And we can never live like that. We can never be in this rhythm of just cutting people off, because that's it. That's why the doors in class have to always be open. That's the least we can do. Now,
Verse 4.
Yeah, verse 4.
How wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye?
Done.
Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye.
Why did Christ say first cast out the beam out of thine own eye? Read on. Let me finish this verse. Read on.
And then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
So, if I got a brother who keeps failing in an arena, and you can easily point out where he is failing in the arena, before you get emotional or get to the point where you stop wanting to deal with him, why don't you deal with the battle and weakness you've been running from your entire life? That's what the beam is. It's the thing that's been glaring in your life that you have avoided. And like most Israelites, we're bench press Israelites. I've said that over many years. What is a bench press Israelite?
Specialize in what you're good at.
Yeah, upper body. What does Jake go to the gym? Last you told me there's this guy that just goes to the gym and just works upper body and core.
Yep, that's it.
No legs.
That's it.
He got Tweety Bird legs, but he will be yoked up top with a phenomenal core.
Yeah.
That's what Israel does. Israel wants to work on what that they value, that they're strong at. Why don't you touch that squat? Why don't you lunges? Why don't you Bulgarian squats? No. Not gonna do that.
You know, it's funny. He'll do in his tour days. I watched him one time.
And you're going to the gym twice in a day. Why don't you do upper body the first time and lower body the second part of the workout?
Well, he did. He did the Stairmaster.
He
went right back to obliques again. He went back doing obliques again. I promise you. He did his little Stairmaster, did his little leg work, and right back to bench pressing obliques. It's hilarious.
Swag. And he was a young guy, right?
He's like, yeah, he's 20, 30s. Probably his 30s. A little older. But he's yoked. But legs is,
Bench press Israelites.
He just do this. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Just to add more what you're saying, the bench press Israelite is a term or a thing used for people or men or women that want to work on things that are comfortable and easy to them.
Yeah. And then judge another person because they can't figure out the issue that they're strong in. So when Christ take this beam out of your eye, focus on the thing that's giving you so much problems that you just ignore it. Stop ignoring your issue. Work on what's inside of you. Then he says, then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. You know what it means? Now I'll have empathy.
Right.
Now I'll be reminded how hard it is to fight a battle that ain't good for it ain't easy for you. But in order for you to sit back here and mercifully and clearly rehabilitate somebody, you have to be reminded about how weak you are. That's the issue. You can't keep teaching. It's one of the answers to your question. You have to willingly put yourself in a situation that humbles you. So you remind yourself how hard it is to face yourself. Because if you remember how hard it is to face yourself, then you can sit back here and teach people properly.
And the time,
then you can teach them.
The time doesn't affect you, the lack of pace. Because brothers do with their communication.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers make a communication, and they expect an instant reaction at their time of the communication. But not giving the person they communicate to the opportunity to digest the information and then come up with a response. You're defeating the purpose of communicating if the recipient of the communication doesn't get the opportunity to digest the information and come up with a clear, competent response.
Because
but I'm already impatient.
But you know what the thing is? But the only thing to break that is to be put into a situation where it takes time for you to figure it out. Where the person is talking and you're like, hold, let me take these notes. You know you're in a weak spot when a brother is throwing out advice and information and it's going over your head. Remember how that feels?
Yeah.
When people are giving you information, it's kind of going over your head, like, bro. And you want to front, like, yeah, I got what you're saying. And then you leave, like, I don't know what the hell this guy just said, man. Let me go online. Well, you want to go online and figure it out on your own. Versus someone says, man, I don't know, man. I don't know what you said, man. I didn't know. It was slow. I didn't figure it out. Can you show me again? We don't want to sit back and say that. We don't want to sit back. What's that?
Somebody like that?
Well, I wasn't trying to be sly. I was just trying to be like some guy who don't figure it out. But who wants to say, man, I didn't know what you said, man. That was too many words, man. Too many big words, man. Too many big words got me all messed up. Nobody wants to admit that.
Yeah.
Because that makes you feel what? Like you'd have done it. Like you're behind. And nobody likes to feel that. But what we'll do is, when the other person that we're is behind, we'll look down on them because they're behind. You got to be reminded of a situation when you are put into this weak, vulnerable position.
That's one of the roots of insecurity, because what happens is when a person trains their mind to see the worst in other people, and they wonder why they can't see the good in themselves.
Yeah.
I can't see good in me. I don't like myself. I hate myself.
You got to slow that down and say that again.
I'm going to say it more clear. a person actually creates their own insecurity. That spirit of a person that feels like they're not enough, or a person that feels like that when I walk in the room, I'm being eyeballed, I don't feel good about me, I hate myself. That thought pattern comes from you being externally analyzing this person's weakness, this person's weakness, this person's weakness. You've mastered the ability to go to a room and perceive and be perceptible and look at everybody's weakness and flaw.
And how they're not good enough.
And you've mastered that skill. But what you don't understand is that which a man sow, that shall he reap. Yep. So because you've mastered the skill of looking at the person's physical weakness,
hyper-focusing on another person's
mentally,
flaw.
I'm super critical of people, then the spirit brings that thought pattern back to you. And now you got to deal with yourself in between when you're not around people. And then your mind's already in the momentum of looking for flaw, looking for weakness, looking to critique. And then you're having these crazy one-on-one conversations that you don't reveal because you don't want to reveal that you feel that way about you.
You'll be surprised how many of our people have built-in mechanisms to critique.
Yeah.
To critique, to sit back and determine how a person is not good enough, how a person falls short of their expectations. That is prominent in our people. It's a dominant aspect of what makes us.
It's almost like 40% of spirits.
I don't like the percentages. You keep saying percentages.
It's the truth.
The doctors say it's 40% of the negative in people is this.
Okay.
Just try to stay away from those percentages.
Okay. All I'm saying is this.
It's a lot.
To say this.
It's a whole lot.
People create their own insecurity when they practice being an intense critiquer of other people. It's like going to a restaurant and you like critiquing the food and you eat your own food, you like the food now? Now your food don't taste good? Well, you've already practiced, you've already taught your palate to look for the bitter everywhere you go. Yeah. So now when it's time for you to enjoy your own personal feast, which is your thoughts, your mind, and your personal day and your one-on-ones, your palate's already trained to look for the bitter.
But listen, and it goes back to this. Then that because you're right, because if I can't see the good in the people I work with every day, and how can I sit back here and see the good in myself?
You don't get the reward
to rehabilitate myself. Because I think this is why he says, fix what's inside of you first.
So you can have that joy.
Well, so you can learn that in the midst of your battle, you have to have enough love in yourself to keep pushing forward.
Yes.
You have to have love in yourself to fight the battles inside of yourself. Because as soon as you get hit in the mouth, Party wants to say, man, forget this, man. I'm going to go back into my little my workout journey I've been going into, man. Listen, I started out at a really bad weight. I started changing my diet and working out, and I was feeling good. And I was under this assumption that I can lose 4 pounds a week forever. I thought I got to be by the end of July. Nope. It's over. That's it back here. Listen. So for 3 weeks in a row, I was going crazy. 4 pounds, bam. 4 pounds, bam. 4 pounds, bam. Then the 4th week, I didn't see nothing. The number was the same as the week before. I was like, oh hell no. Yeah. I was like, this machine ain't working. This machine's broken now. Now this weighing device, this ain't right. This is wrong. What's wrong with this machine?
Who touched my
machine up?
Who touched my scale?
You guys are, well, my scale is messed up. It's broken it. Who broke it in my machine? Yeah. And then you start losing it. Then I'm going on the machine like 2 or 3 times a day. I'm like, what's going on? There's got to be a problem with this. I go in like, no. And then 3 days later, it goes higher. I'm like, what the hell, no, man? Why am I even doing this shit no more? I might as well eat how I'm going to eat again. Forget this. I'm wasting my time.
That's right.
And then I said, okay, man, listen, calm down. I said, first of all, I can't look at this scale for like 2 weeks. I have to scale abstain. I'm trying to like abstain from watching this scale because this scale is gonna turn me crazy out. I'm gonna go crazy looking at this scale. I'm gonna break it. I'm gonna break this shit. I'm gonna go to the store and buy another one and break that shit. Because I'm working too hard. I should be seeing some changes. Then, I'm going through this and I'm talking this because I'm like, damn, I understand the battles it takes and how long it takes to start changing your weight.
Oh, it's lifestyle change.
So then, now, if I'm counseling somebody else, now I'm not a snob.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I get it. Oh, it was one of those days, man, your weight went back up, right? Damn, I get it, man. Now you guys got to think about all the steps before. Now there's some empathy there.
Yeah.
Now there's mercy. Imagine if I would have been knocking out 4 pounds a week. You couldn't tell me shit. You couldn't tell me
all you gotta do is just
boom, boom, boom. Listen, y'all off. What's wrong with y'all? Why ain't y'all changing y'all weight? There's sickness in y'all. Y'all got this sort of fight in the spirit. Oh, here we go. Then it's the spirit. You don't want to fight in the spirit. Most High isn't with you. You're not trying hard enough. You're not sacrificing enough. Then the ego kicks in.
That's the welfare. That's the welfare mindset too. When you're doing classes,
God,
what's wrong with those people?
well, that's the point. Because hey, I fix it like this now. So how come they can't do this? I told them what to do. They're just not ready to change.
Yeah.
Get back to me when you're ready to change.
That's definitely what it is. And it's 10 times worse.
Get back on my level when you're ready to get back on my level.
And it's 10 times worse. All the contenders they're in the not our comment section, but they're in the comment. Well, they were my class day. I had one dude tripping out in the class day. But a lot. You can know people's real personality when you read comment section, because there's no consequence for saying what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
In real life, you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
But people can say how they feel. I'm one of them. I say I say some crazy stuff too online.
Yeah.
I say what I want to say.
But you might have alias names. You don't put your real name on there. You're like Shadow Rider 3399. Like what the heck? You just said all kind.
To hell with you.
You suck. You suck. You suck.
And then you go like certain rooms online, and they message pops up. Hey, don't say anything stupid, or you're not gonna put your message up. This is the area of this.
Moderator.
Yeah, a moderator pops up on.
Oh my God.
That's how you know you're contending online. It's the same thing in real life.
That's crazy.
They contend everywhere.
So let's tie it back in. This is why Christ said, work on your battle. Work on that beam that's in your eye. Now you'll have a lot more mercy and consideration towards the people that aren't picking up as quickly as you pick up. The Most High has to keep humbling us.
Well, they have different issues, because a lot of times our issue, we have this bad judgment of balancing people.
John.
This person's issue is different than me, and I would never do that.
John. But what about you? What about the real that you don't? That there's mania and craziness in how you do
I would
things.
never do what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand what he's doing.
John.
And you're not going to understand it. Because that's not your background.
That's the point. But the only thing that can break it is empathy. Romans is going to explain it and give a little more clarity. Let's get.
Verse 5?
Oh, we didn't finish 5?
No, we're on 4. Finish 4.
What you want for? Read that. Read it.
Come on. Matthew 7:5. Thou hypocrite! First cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
Read it again. Read it again.
Come on. Thou hypocrite! First cast out the beam out of thine own eye, then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
He calls us a hypocrite because we're play acting. We're playing Israelite. We're playing teacher. But we're not looking at things as a judge should look at things. So what he's letting us know is if we're going to judge a situation right, if we're going to judge the sickness of a person right, you have to look at another person's sickness like you look at your sickness. Because when you're sick and when you're weak, you want nothing but empathy, understanding, mercy, love, and patience. When we look at somebody else's sickness that's not yours, we don't give that to the person that's sick and wonder why the Spirit ain't with us and Christ ain't really rolling through us. Because we lack empathy and mercy. And a lot of times, we don't respect your sickness. That's where the pride and ego comes in. I don't respect your sickness. And it says, I don't respect your sickness, I really don't respect you.
There you go.
But Christ is like, then I don't respect you because you got sickness too. That's how the Most High measures us the same way we measure people. Because Israel is all about power and dominance and respect. Is that not our people? Mm-hmm. And if there's not something flashy or something out here that you respect, you just start tearing them down. This is and the Most High saying, Christ saying, listen, if you can find these ways to tear these people down and constantly see how they're not good enough, Christ is sitting here just writing a checklist about how you're not good enough. This is how, when you read Matthew 7, where people say, I have sat back here and taught your word and cast devils out in your name. And Christ said, I never knew you.
Work of iniquity.
How can the Most High say, I never knew you, even though you did the work of the Lord? It's how you looked at your people.
Yeah.
And how you lacked love and patience for your people. And expect the Most High to sit back here and give you that patience and mercy that you lacked the capability to do for others. So what you got?
Give me 2 Corinthians 1 and verse 5 through 6. And this is why it pleases the Most High to afflict us, like it pleased the Most High to afflict Christ. Because what happens is, the reason why Christ becomes an effective mediator for us is he had to suffer and experience all the fleshly influences that makes humans weak and still be able to conquer and get through that. And now he has a proper perspective when he's judging us on those same level of deficiencies and ailments. Give me verse 5.
Is verse 5 to what?
6.
Okay.
2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 5. For as the sufferings of Yahushua abound in us, so our consolation also abounded by Yahushua.
He says the more that we suffer in Christ, the more that we have to go through the serious workout regimen to be able to show someone how to walk through, how to get your life back in shape. The more we have to sit here and learn how to get our health in order, or learn what it means to study properly from the beginning to the end, or learn how to discipline our households. Those are small sufferings because it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of investment to get accomplished. Those small sufferings become valuable when it's time to teach somebody else how to operate in the same level in Christ. Because the more we suffer, the more things the Most High puts us through, the more I become a consolation or a hope for the people around me.
You're going to console them.
Exactly.
You're going to sit back here and nurture them.
Exactly.
Versus tear them down.
Because you can't tear someone down. It's like me, right? I'm learning Spanish, and I hit my 1 year on July 1st. I'm like, man, I thought I'd be fluent by now. In my head, I'm like, man, you put 2,000 hours in something, you should be a master by now.
Yeah.
You're still not a master. So now I'm like, okay. Now that I see a lot of foreigners.
Can you imagine these kids that are in these ESL classes? Like, how come these guys can't figure out English? What's wrong with these guys, huh?
It's a lot of work, bro. It's a lot. If you're not doing this since you're a kid, and you're not hearing it all the time for 4 or 5 years, it's a lot of work.
Imagine these kids are in school. They're only here for a few hours, but at home, it's only Spanish.
Yeah.
Their friends are only speaking Spanish. And they don't have people that speak English as friends.
Yeah.
So all you got is Spanish 20 hours of the day, and then you're lost in class for 5 hours a day.
Because in school, I remember in school, I used to get mad. It wasn't just me, it's a lot of us. Because we had like these state tests or these major tests in class. And then the people who had just came over from, Monterrey or whatever, they're getting like specialized tests just for them. It's like 5 questions, but we got 50. And I'm like, bro, we're out here.
You want America. You want America. You gotta do America. You gotta learn America. This is BS. Say America. You gotta learn America. This is BS. You want America. You learn it in Nueve. I'm just saying. You get what I'm saying? I think you're just saying dumb stuff because you're angry at it.
It's real, bro. It's so real. It's like, bro, I'm busting my tail, and you got the same degree I got.
Yeah, you smiling at me. He's smiling at me too. He's smiling.
He's laughing. I gave less.
I gave less.
I gave less.
I did sauce a little. I don't need to study. I have to answer 5 questions, and I can just spin a dance.
Oh my god!
I won.
I gotta sit back here and struggle and sweat it out.
But it reminded me of that time. Like, man, this is not just a
Man.
quick process. You know, a lot of the internet, you go on the internet, how to learn a language and how long it should take. They'll tell you, man, you can learn a language in 3 months.
3 months.
You learn a whole language in 6 months.
Bro, please,
That's not realistic, bro. Even when you learn the language, right? You know, Esau got it mapped out. It's got like A1, A2, B2, or B1, B2. Then you get to like college level, C1, C2. That's native level. If you're a native, everyone's at a C2. If you're born, or C1 at least. Then in college level is C2, where your vocabulary is another level. You can sit here and speak the language, be it a B1, but that's not an effective member of society yet. That takes a whole other year of study. More books you got to read, more millions of words you got to read, more time you got to invest in
and
studying.
you got to talk. You got to talk.
You got to talk it out.
Listen, if you're not talking with
it's
people
so
all the time,
awkward, bro. It's so awkward talking. You try to talk, and you know you're choppy, and it's smiling like you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Oh, no, I'm not doing good. Don't lie to me.
and you're talking slow as hell.
Yeah, bro. But that process is humbling. And as you're being humbled, now you're like, okay, I understand now. So
now there's empathy. Now I can console somebody else.
Yes.
In another situation, because I remember what I went through when the Most High was humbling me.
Damn.
And this is why it ties in perfectly with Matthew 7. Fix what's inside of you, and now you'll be prepared when you're developing somebody for the long haul.
Okay.
Because when you're going to sit back and work with somebody for the long haul, ups, downs, highs, lows, regressions.
Okay.
Because that's a major thing about developing anybody.
Regressions, yeah.
A person might jump ahead, then they might get stagnant, then they might go backwards, then they might take a few steps forward, then they'll be stagnant, then they'll get a little forward, then backwards.
Yep.
That's development.
Yep.
Yes, sir?
Well, basically, you won't know what mercy is, or you won't know how to console people unless you suffer first.
Well, and this is what verse 6 is going to say, because a lot of us don't have it naturally in us to be like that.
Or what we'll do is we will cater.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important to overcome what's inside of you. Because either we sit back here and we judge and look down on somebody who ain't figured it out, or we just coddle the person next to us and call coddling love.
Yeah. Don't worry about fixing it.
And what we do is we'll tell people it's okay to quit.
Yeah.
It's okay not to try.
Yeah.
It's okay not to fix what's inside of you. That's why you got to break what's inside of you and learn how to have mercy and consolation, but still push people. Because people still need to learn accountability.
Yeah.
People still need to be checked on their wrongdoing. But you got to have the ability to stand up for what's right, call out sin where it is, and then at the same time have enough consolation and mercy to navigate through all the length of time it takes to get to the end. So keep going.
Read verse 6.
2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 6. It says, and whether we be afflicted, it is for your consolation and salvation.
He's letting you know why a lot of us have to keep losing and going through these adversities and these challenges. One is to keep you humble, and two is to give you that soft heart, the empathetic heart. Because now that I'm suffering, now that I'm losing, now that I've been humbled, now that my pride's been shot, I can see you from a different angle. Versus seeing you as the guy that I can't figure out, I can't get right.
That affliction is the Most High getting you to see that beam in you.
Yeah.
It's getting you to stop running from that beam that's in your eye. Face that. Fix that. I don't know if y'all have realized this yet, but what kind of a teacher are you if you're not overcoming things inside of you?
Okay.
The only thing that justifies a ranking person over a non-ranking person is experience. But what we throw experience out. What the hell does experience mean? I've been in the truth for 20 years. I've been failing for 20 years. Is that experience?
No.
The experience is however long you've been in. Have you been accumulating victories?
Yeah.
Have you been accumulating, overcoming aspects in your spirit? The more things you fix in you, the more things you can teach. The more of a help you can be to your people, the more things you break in yourself. Yes.
Is the salvation the more power you have based on what you're saying?
Salvation is hope. Because as I've conquered the battle, again, we don't have Christ in our face. So who's the light that people are going to be following? It's our light. It's the leader's light. It's the people who have great examples. You're the light in the shining hill. Salvation is, it can be done. if I follow this pathway, I follow this mentality.
The hope of salvation.
The hope of salvation.
It's the hope, because the salvation don't happen until the end.
Yeah.
So nobody has attained salvation yet.
Okay.
Because listen, like you read in Ezekiel 33, where we might be all starting right, and at the end we go left.
Yeah.
And all that righteousness we did don't mean nothing at the day of judgment.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is, the more things we overcome in ourselves and the more spiritual victories we accomplish, the less likely we're going to fade in the left, because we'll have more good works to remind us why we should keep pushing forward. That's a better way to look at it. The more things you break and defeat in yourself, why would you go backwards? This is about gaining momentum. That's why the scripture says the clean hands maketh the man what? Stronger and stronger. The more you operate clean mentally, clean decisions, clean habits, the easier it is to stay clean. It's the same thing with breaking things. The more you attack and break what's inside of you, it's easier to break what's inside of you the next day.
Wow.
And the day after that, because you have muscle memory about what it took to be disciplined, what it took to abstain from your flesh, what it took to go counter against your emotions and feelings. That's what this is all about. So the Most High did have us afflicted. He does keep breaking what's inside of us with the hope that we'll have more empathy, and we'll be able to console everybody else through their battles. But consoling is letting people know it can still be done, and still seeing the good in you as you're having these highs and lows and these ups and downs in your journey. I don't mean,
No, you go.
But
keep reading.
Which is effectual in the enduring of the same suffering.
He says this type of leadership is effectual, that I have to endure the same thing or go through the battle first, so that now I have the empathy necessary to be able to walk you through it without taking you personal. If I was at a point where I didn't understand the Bible, right, and I was asking for help, and I was asking questions on how to get, where do I start reading? That was my story. I came in like, man, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to read. I was asking all the brothers around me, all the elders around me, hey, what do I read? Go read Proverbs, go read Psalms. Go read Wisdom of Solomon. Go read Ecclesiastes. Then go to this step next. Then go to that step next. And then keep putting in these hours. If I didn't have to walk through that step myself, then when it's time for me to show someone who's asking me the same question 3 or 4 years later, hey, what do I do? Where do I start? I now understand how I felt, what it took to get to this point, and how much mercy and patience it takes for someone who's learning from bare zero.
And then I'm going to say this. And the funny thing is, the next person you deal with might have reading disabilities.
God. And that's what the Spanish girl is like.
And
Now,
that's the point.
I know how to read a whole language, so you don't got no shit. I'm saying how to walk through
And
it.
that's the thing. Because you might have had issues finding out what to read. Another person might have to find the motivation to read.
Yeah, that's
Because just reading is a battle for people.
reading is real, bro.
Sitting back here and sitting down and reading books is a battle for like 50% of the nation. I threw out the percentage.
We got
like 75% of the nation doesn't like reading books.
Illiterate.
Or they're not illiterate. They just don't like to be exercised.
Yeah, no. I remember
most of our people, you start reading books, you're getting tired.
We stopped being forced.
You can watch a whole hour and a half movie.
Yes.
And be an hour and 50-minute movie and be engaged.
Yep.
You read a book for 10 minutes. Oh man, I got sleep spirits. I'm so tired. Man, I am so drowsy. I don't know why I'm so drowsy. Hey, you want to watch the movie? Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You want to like go crazy on Netflix and watch like five episodes today? Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hey, what's going on?
There's a lot of binge watching Love's Island series.
Yeah, people going crazy watching these. Yeah, bro. Everybody's going bananas watching Love Island. Going crazy, But when it's time to read about, it's time to hit the A now. It's time to go to sleep.
My body's talking to me.
Yeah, this is the spirit telling me I'm tired. I'm just so tired. I don't understand why I'm so tired. Listen. So then, you got to sit back here and correlate the challenges you had in finding topics to study and divide that by 11 to get people to understand, what do I got to do to get a person to embrace studying in general, just reading books?
Yeah.
How can I work that spirit out of somebody? But once again, that issue, you will say, oh, man, no, you can't read books. What the hell's going wrong with Israel? Then you got to neutralize that thought and say, okay, where was I weak at? It's probably not going to be the same arena. But I got to be conscious of weakness and then also be conscious of victory through weakness. Because I know a lot of people who their whole brotherhood career is based upon empathizing for weak shit.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful about not building a camp of quitters. Because all you do is, I too thirst. I too am sick. I too have failed. I too have gone through problems. That's it. You ain't going to sit back here and say, I understand what you're going through. I understand how it feels. But this is what you got to do to finish.
Push to strength.
You got to push to strength with empathy. With consolation. But too many of us, we want to hang around people. Oh, man, I understand how it is. It's tough to work. It's tough working out. The end. Like, that's it? That's what you going to say? Working out is hard as hell. I get it. This sweating thing sucks. No sugars? What? That's crazy.
You can't eat bread.
I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
You better just take them medications. Oh, you got the sugars? You better take them pills. Because you got the sugars.
You got the sugars.
You got to make sure you get that pill money. You get the pill money for the pills. Now, I know how it feels. It's crazy. You can't be that way, huh? You got to understand I understand how tough that is, but this is how you get through it. Without that disgust that comes behind it. So, you know with that?
Finish it up real quick.
Gotcha. It says, of the same sufferings which we also suffer, or whether we be comforted.
Read from the top.
Gotcha. So 2 Corinthians 1 and 6. It says, and whether we be afflicted, it is for your consolation and salvation, which is effectual in the enduring of the same sufferings which we also suffer.
And this is the point. Effectual leadership, because it produces empathy, it produces understanding, and it humbles you, is going through the problem, going through humbling scenarios where you weren't the biggest, brightest star, where you didn't catch on to something the fastest, where you weren't the best at what you did. Having those experiences should allow you to see the weakness around you and not take it so personal. If, like what we're saying, if I can look at, it might not be the exact scenario as far as reading, but what about the other things I wasn't very good at? The other sins I couldn't get over very quickly. It's easy to highlight, oh, the LGBTQ is bad. Oh, smoking is bad. Oh, you shouldn't eat pork. That's bad. What about the other stuff that I was doing I couldn't get over? And it took me years to conquer those sins.
Yep.
Do I remember those 8 failures? I remember those at low time?
We said the other things we were doing. You're not talking about LGBTQ. You wasn't doing the LGBT.
I mean, come on. I know. What I was saying is, a lot of our people will look at the LGBTQ as those are the most wicked, baddest guys in the world. Or they'll look at, if you eat pork, you're just so weak. Or if you're smoking, you need to stop that. You're just weak. What I'm saying is, what about the secret faults, like David was saying, that nobody else knew about, that took years to conquer, that took months to get over? Those issues that...
What about the lust you're into?
The lust that you're into.
The lust you're into isn't what this guy's lust is.
And that's the point. We ain't talking about no craziness. I'm just saying.
I'm glad you explained that.
Some people it could be. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying there's particular issues that we take longer time to get over, that we got to recall and remember when it's time to lead and walk someone through their issue. And that's why I said it's effectual. It's effectual that you endure. Read on.
It says, enduring of the same sufferings which we also suffer, or whether we be comforted, it is for your consolation.
And then the comforting is the Most High gave us the time, He gave us the teaching, He gave us the counseling, and He gave us the motivation to overcome those sins. Now that's also a tool used to help and console and lead and give hope to somebody else that's needing that level of example.
Read verse 7.
Yeah.
And salvation. Verse 7. And our hope of you is steadfast, knowing that as ye are partakers of the suffering,
everything that you're going through, all the suffering you're going through, you take that suffering and do what?
It says, knowing that ye are partakers of the sufferings, so shall ye also be of the consolation.
You take and you learn from the sufferings. You learn how to overcome the sufferings so you can teach others how to overcome sufferings. That's consolation. Yeah. You can console. You can give people pep talks. You can give people strength through their battles. That's how you have to look at your position, because the person who's suffering and can overcome these sufferings, the fact that you're changing has put you into a noble position. The fact that you have the capability to overcome what's inside of you gives you the experience or the nobility that's required to bring back down, to bring other people back to where you're at. That's how it's supposed to be. But let that go and go to Romans chapter 14. Romans chapter 14 and verse 10 through 13.
Romans chapter 14, starting in verse 10. But why dost thou judge thy brother? Or why dost thou set at naught thy brother?
When he says thou shalt set at naught thy brother, why do you look at him like as if he or she isn't good enough? Why do you sit back here and judge them to not be good enough, to judge them to be lacking? Why do we operate like that one towards another? Read on.
For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Yahushua.
Everybody's life is going to be scrutinized. All of us are going to be judged based off the things we did or the things we didn't do or the things we purposely chose not to address. So why are we sitting back here and hyper-focusing on what the person that you have the issue with, what he's not addressing, and not on what you're not addressing? It's going to explain itself. Read on.
God, verse 11. For it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to the Most High.
Everybody's going to confess where they failed at. Everybody's going to have to own up to what they didn't do good enough, and have to sit back and see and accept all the filth that's inside of them. But why do we want to make this thing a one-sided thing? Because of the things you fixed. You see the difference in what 2 Corinthians 1 was? The things you overcome, you bring it back down to console, versus the things you've overcome, like we're in Romans 14, the things you overcome, you use as leverage to have disgust towards the person who hasn't figured it out. God. This is what you're battling against in yourself, whether you're going to admit it or not. For everything that you can do better than somebody else, there's a pride in you that makes you want to look down on somebody because they ain't figured it out. Read on.
Verse 12. So then, every one of us shall give account of himself to the Most High. Let us not, therefore, judge one another anymore.
Now, this is something, Moselle, to your question. This is another way we're supposed to look at this. Not to judge anybody anymore. Read on.
But judge this rather.
But this is what we should be judging. Instead of looking down on what a brother does not do or what he's not bringing to the table, what our focus should be in that position of nobility, of superior experience, of superiority in whatever realm that is. If I'm going to be the person in the superiority position, what I should be hyper-focusing in myself is this. Read on.
Judge this rather, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way.
What I should be focused on is making sure I know this brother's sickness enough and not making mistakes and flaws in myself that will make him weaker. That's what the focus should be. Instead of me sitting back here and looking down on what a person doesn't bring to the table, I should be focused on, okay, you know what? If this person is weak, if this person is deficient, what am I doing to fuel his deficiency? We don't think about that, do we? Nope. What am I doing to make this weak person operate more weaker? What about how I carry myself is putting this younger brother or this brother who or sister who can't handle these things? How am I making this person negative? We always want to sit back here and say, this person's weak, this person's negative. But how are you triggering their negativity?
How are you sabotaging your brother?
Or how am I triggering their negativity? Because how about our attitude triggers negativity? Our weakness triggers negativity. Our pride triggers another person's negativity. Let's be real. The negative is still the negative. The wickedness is still the wickedness in the younger person. But what am I doing to enhance, to justify why this sick person is thinking sickly? That alone should keep you on top of yourself, not to fall weak or not to look down with this disgust. Because maybe you have a person who's dealing with weakness and they're hypersensitive. And if you operate with disgust towards them, maybe you're fueling them to get more weaker. Maybe you're justifying the thought in their head that tells themselves, I'm not good enough anyway. So your disgust at me just confirms what I'm already thinking. And because of that, let me go ahead and just keep committing more sin. Because I ain't shit anyway. You don't think that's a real thing? It happens all the time. When people have established habits of sin, habits of breaking down their spirit, habits of failure, and then you sit back here and operate in disgust or loathing or hatred, all you're doing is justifying why a person should further their negativity. So what is Paul saying? Instead of looking down on somebody, you better figure out what is it going to take. How do I have to act to help this person fight their battle? Instead of me focusing on how off they are, what do I got to change and how I deal with you to get you to want to change? The level of work it's going to take to get you to figure out how to inspire somebody to change or how not to be another obstacle that's in their way, that's work. Because people are walking around with sickness looking for a reason to be what? Sick. People that are sick are looking for reasons to be sick.
Justified.
God. So instead of saying, oh man, you're sick and I can't stand your sickness, let me not get in the way. I'm not going to be another person that you use to justify why you're going to continue to be sick. I'm going to remove that from you because I'm going to be the opposite of what you're expecting me to be. I'm going to be strength when you're expecting disgust. I'm going to be positivity when you're expecting for people to give up on you. This is how you break. This is the train of thinking you use to break that disgust and that malignant root that's inside of you. Now do you understand why we got to keep going over these topics? Because there's so much here that we don't talk enough about. Because most of it's just talking about the fall of Esau. The kingdom's falling. Listen, the quicker this shit happens, what about you not fixing your malignant root? Esau, okay, Russia's in America, now what? The end is nigh. And you still have a hatred towards your brother. What was you doing with your time? Nothing. Focusing outward. Looking down on the sick. Versus knowing they're sick. Knowing they're looking for a reason to quit. Don't give it to them. But that means you got to study them enough to understand what they're looking for from you and not give that to give them something spiritual to feed off of so that they don't quit. Read on. That's all of verse 13, right?
Con, that was the 13.
So from here, let's jump to Romans 15, verse 1 through 3.
Con, Romans chapter 15, verse 1. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak.
Mm-hmm. So he's telling you, the strong and the noble, we're not supposed to look down on the weak. We're supposed to be strong for the weak. That's the issue. And to read on.
And not to please ourselves.
And we have to bear the infirmities of the weak and not please ourselves. You please yourself by choosing to be around people that are of equal or greater ability than you. You're choosing yourself because it's easy to be around your peers. That's comfortable. It's uncomfortable dealing with the sick. It's uncomfortable being strong for somebody who wants to be weak. That doesn't feel good. That's a bummer. Because the first thing you're going to tell yourself is, it's hard enough for me to be strong. I got to be strong for me and another person? Right?
Yeah.
But that's Christ. That's the career path we chose. That's why you study. Because I ain't gonna lie, it is hard to be strong for you and the next person if you ain't in the book. But if you're studying, you're not. But when you don't study, you're not reading a lot, and you're binge watching television, you're getting caught in distractions, it's hard to carry other people's burdens and be strong for yourself. When you're just living your life and you're hyper focused on just what you got going on, you're not fulfilling your job. You're supposed to work towards strength so you can take that strength that you've learned and you've acquired and help sit back here and inspire others to be strong. Read verse 1 again.
God, Romans 15:1. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves.
So our job is to help teach the weak how to be strong. Not to empathize with the weak and feel sorry and cry. Listen, man, and give sob stories. Our job is to teach strength and solutions. This is not about sitting back here and over-empathizing with the weak, like we explained, and just feeding weakness in the weak. Our job is to be strong and stare down the weak and show them how to overcome. Read on.
Verse 2. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification.
Listen, we're supposed to please our neighbor so he can learn. That's what it means. We're supposed to strengthen them with strategies. What is it going to take to help you fight your battle? That takes time. That's still, you're not getting what you want out the deal. It's all give. It's all counsel about strategies. How to be stronger. How not to quit. How not to quit on yourself. Go here, go there, go work on yourself. This is what the real work is about. If you love your brother, or if you understand what Christ's will is. Because the world wants you to empathize by fueling the weakness. That's not what it is either. You show love by being the strength and providing strength, whether they like it or not. Read on.
Verse 3. For even Yahushua pleased not himself.
But Christ didn't please himself while he was hanging out with the publicans and the sinners. But he also wasn't justifying to the publican and sinner to keep sinning and publicaning. He wasn't doing that either. He was dealing with the sinners, with the publicans, and trying to pull them out of their rut to bring them to strength. That's what he was doing. Read on.
But as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproached thee fell on me.
He said, the sicknesses that reproach you fell on me. What does that mean? This is what Christ said. So when you start counseling with brothers and with sisters, you ever notice when their sickness, you start working on their sickness, now that sickness is on your shoulders now? That burden is on your shoulders? Now that burden is on you, and you have to help him or her figure out how to work through their issues spiritually. The reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. All that hell, all that sickness that's on that person, as you're trying to help rehabilitate, you got to take on that sickness too. And that can be exhausting. The only way to do that is you got to show why you were able to overcome so many things. You better be in that book and stay in that book so you can enable other people how to stay in the book. The problem is I see Israelites, men and women, do all this counseling, but they don't study behind the counseling. And if you're not studying to maintenance and strengthen your spirit, there's only so much you can give before you start burning out and having their sickness work on you and start wearing you down. So just keep that in mind too. Let that verse go. Now let's jump to 1 Corinthians 8 and 12 and 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 12 through 13.
All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 12. But when ye sin, so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience.
So he's telling you, when you sin, when you get weak, you wound their weak conscience. Read on.
Ye sin against Yahushua.
He says you sin against Christ when you can't handle their sickness. And you immaturely react to their obvious flaws. He said that is really a sin against Christ. Because when you overreact and act emotional based off their sickness, then you're just giving that negative person justification to be negative. And that's how you sin against Christ. Our example has to be better than that. What he's saying is, for the rank and experience we got, we have to show people just strength. We can't give our people reasons to quit, reasons to not fight, reasons to give up, knowing that that's what they want anyway. You ever notice if your husband and wife, your wife sometimes wants you to sit back here and say the worst just to give them a reason to quit?
Yeah.
They're baiting you. And it's almost like they're begging you to react the wrong way just so that you can say the wrong thing back and say, see, I knew he didn't love me. But you keep saying all the negative things to get a person to react the wrong way just to justify why you want to quit. And men do it too. Brothers sit back here and will be disrespectful on purpose just so that you snap and say, see, I knew you had no love for the Brotherhood. Brothers do it all the time. They might not admit it, but they do it. They'll sit back here and be out of pocket, and then when you react to their being out of pocket, then you're the bad guy. He's supposed to be the ranking man. He was out the spirit. This is why he's like, and then when we do overreact, we're sinning against Christ. Because we're giving them what they want. Sometimes brothers want to argue with you just so they can sit back here and feed their flesh after the argument. Happens all the time. And us, like the immature persons that we are, we eat the cheese. We do. Versus sitting back here and being the quote-unquote ranking we're supposed to be and maintain poise and discipline and self-control and don't exchange railing for railings. That's what that means. Railing for railing is, you want to be carnal? I'll be carnal too. The answer is to stay spiritual despite the pride, despite the baiting, despite the hatred. It's almost like, you ever seen like people like, they beat you to hatred. They say hateful and do hateful things because they want you to sit back here. They want to see some hate out of you. And if they see some hate out of you, now I don't have to change.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. If I see you get flawed and see you respond jacked up, now I don't have to. I'm off the hook for having to change. We do it. People do it all the time. Especially when you're really working on breaking what's in a person's spirit and it's working, then the rebellion kicks up. And then when the rebellion kicks up, if you don't handle it maturely, they're going to say, see, this is why I can't give my spirit to you. Oh, now we can't give our spirit to one another because you acted like a child and he reacted the negative way. And then now you bait him into a mistake. And now I can't trust you no more. Happens all the time. Read verse 12 again.
1 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 12. But when ye sin against the brethren and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Yahushua.
Listen, he's telling you the sick have a weak conscience, have a weak outlook. And a person who has a weak outlook is looking to quit. So you have a job and a responsibility not to fuel their desire to quit. Because if they're going to quit, they're going to walk out those doors because they didn't give a shit. Not because you got weak and responded to their negative. This is why we teach men that same way. Don't give a person a justification to quit. If they're going to leave, no, you're going to leave because you just want to live a life of sin. Let's not play, oh, I left because the Israelites did me wrong. Or my husband did me wrong. This brother did me wrong. And then that's how we sin against Christ. Because now we give the truth a bad name. Because we overreact to a person that already had a weak conscience from the beginning. So he's letting us know, as the ranking person, one, we have to maintain our spirit and not show enough flaw in a weak conscience to justify what they want to do anyway, and it's quit. If they're going to quit, let them quit. Don't let them quit because you got weak and showed your emotions to fuel their willingness to quit. Read on. From the top, verse 12, then verse 13.
But when ye sin against the brethren and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Yahushua.
You're also sinning with your brother if you get weak and react and feed that baiting that Israel. Israel sit back here and think you don't love them. Bros think you don't give a damn. And to test that theory, they'll be disrespectful out of this world. And if you react to their disrespect, see, I knew they didn't give a shit. This is why I don't change. Men make it about how you look at them versus staying locked into Christ. And when you have people like that, you still have an obligation to not sin against your brother and give in to that weakness. Or give in to that weakness with your wife or that sister that you're working with, as sisters. That's our job. To not eat the cheese, not get baited into responding to that level of hostility. Read on.
Verse 13. Wherefore, if me make my brother to offend,
whatever it is about my personality that's going to make you get offended, read on.
I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend.
And that's the point. That means if how I carry myself is going to fuel your reason to quit, then I'm going to eliminate that from you. I'm going to eliminate that so I'm not the excuse as to why you don't want to serve God. Are you prepared to eliminate the things that people use to justify why they don't try again? Eliminate that. Now what's their excuse? So are they going to sit back here and work on their weak conscience? Or are they going to sit back here and focus on how you talked to me? How you looked at me? How you responded to my question? Don't give people that. Because by nature, Israel with weak conscience is looking for a reason not to change anyway. So in response to that, if me offends my brother, if me offends my wife, if how I roll, which is not about right and wrong, he just said me. So it's not about right and wrong. If how I carry myself is going to run you off, then I have the obligation as the ranking man or the man of the house to fix those things so that you don't get weak. That's how we have to look at our position versus the other outlook where I just look down on what you don't do. And I just keep acting like I want to act while judging you for what you don't bring to the table. He's saying the weaker person puts you in a position to make more adjustments. Not adjustments right and wrong, but adjust little nuances in your character that the weak key on to justify their rebellion. Is what I'm saying making sense? Are we clear? Yes, I'm up.
You be doing something right and not sinning or breaking the law, but you still are required to make an adjustment for the person in front of you that is weak to something that you may be doing, even though you're not sinning.
God. If you're not sinning.
That's what I'm doing.
And if it's, but once again, we need to talk, if you have some questions on this, but God. In theory, God. But that doesn't mean sinning it for what's right. That's a whole other story. Sinning it for what's right is sinning it for what's right. Now, we're dealing with method of how to sin it for what's right can be tweaked. But sinning it for what's right and integrity is integrity. I'm not saying not have integrity and not have the willingness to sin for what's right and take a loss for what's right. But people will sit back here and use how we talk, how we roll, how we carry ourselves to justify why I don't want to change. And those cosmetic things, eliminate those cosmetic things so that person has no more excuses and has to face themselves. But still, this is still about the ranking person working on what's inside of them to not be the stumbling block. Because that's why this verse was here. We read that in Romans chapter 14 about not being a stumbling block to the weak. And this is a further explanation of that. Okay? Let that go. Let both of those go. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 12.
Proverbs 9 and 12.
Hold on. Read that, sir.
Proverbs 9 and 12. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it.
He said if you're scorning, if you're in the spirit of looking down on somebody or finding weakness in the person above you, he said, thou alone shalt bear it. The question is, how will the scorner or that disdainful mind bear the punishment alone? Okay, we're going to find that out by going to Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha. Chapter 19. Verse 1. Well, let me pull it. Let me get there. Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 and verse 1. Read that.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 19, verse 1. A laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich.
Mm-hmm.
And he that contemns...
So he says the person that contemns has trained their mind to see the weakness and the flaw and the scrutiny of everybody around them. Whether it's the ranking man to the lower ranking man or the lower ranking man above. That person who just is hyper fixated on looking at the flaws. There's a lot of our people that do that. The person that contemns the little things. Read that verse again. That second part of the verse.
It says, and he that contemneth small things shall fall by little and little.
What he's meaning is by contemning small things. It's one thing to see a person who's doing blatant sin, blatant negative, blatant wickedness. You can't sit back and not be conscious of glaring issues and glaring problems. You can't just blow that off. But he's just a person that is looking for the weakness in small things that are insignificant, that aren't that necessary. And that's how we hyper-focus. We won't sit back and look at a person's dedication and his commitment and the good that he does. We want to sit back here and break them down, all the little things they don't do to justify why you don't have to be obedient. That type of person that contemns small things is no different than wives who can't just respect their husbands. They can't see all the good they do for their family. But I'm going to sit back and focus on little small, little nitpicky things to justify my lack of obedience, my lack of respect. The person that thinks like that, read on.
God. It says, wine and women.
No. I want the end of number one.
It says, and he that contemneth small things shall fall by little and little.
The Most High says, he says, if you're going to sit back here and micromanage and look at all the little things, I'm going to break you down little by little. I'm going to take things away from you little by little. What's that?
The crazy thing is, the little things that we choose to look at, those little that might be insignificant or not as major, the same way we look at those, the same way the Father's looking at us, like, you know what, for these little things, you're not getting the flipping kingdom then. Since you want to sit back and micromanage people and have this laundry list with super duper fine print, I got super duper fine print, why we're not making the kingdom then?
And he starts to break you down little by little, situation for situation. He'll start breaking your family. He'll start breaking all the things you're close, that you hold close. He'll start tearing those things down. You want to sit back here and dissect this man? I want to dissect your life. Because that's what he does. You want to dissect this brother? You want to dissect this husband? Let me dissect your life and take things away little by little. Because you don't have respect for brothers, then I'm going to take away the things that you value most too. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to micromanage and look at people hateful, then I'm going to make your life a living hell. By breaking you down little by little. Let that verse go and go to Proverbs chapter 3 and 34. And this verse ties into what Christ said in Matthew 7, Romans 14. It's all in the same line. Proverbs 3 and 34.
Proverbs chapter 3, verse 34. Surely he scorneth the scorner.
The Most High scorns the scorners. What's the scorner? The scorner is that person who has contempt, who contemns, who disdains, who sits back here and breaks down the person that's over or under him and looks at all the flaw, overly dissects the sickness, can sit back here and find flaw in everything about you. He says the Most High scorns those scorners. That means the Most High starts to break you down and sees all the flaw in you. That's scary. If you want to sit back here and scorn people and look down on people and see the worst in people, then the Most High is going to see the worst in you. That means you ain't making a kingdom. If you're hyper fixated on and can't see the good in your brother, then he ain't going to see the good in you. You can forget it. So you better fix how you look at the people around you, because he going to forget you. He going to forget you like this. It don't matter what good you did, what works you did. Because all you do is see the negative in people. So he'll see the negative in you. If I lack the capacity to see the good in my brother, he will lack the capacity to see the good in you. That's how you are measured, how you measure people. That's what that looks like. That don't feel good, does it?
No.
I don't feel good at all. I thought Jesus loved. I thought he loves. I thought he has mercy on the children.
He loves the
I thought he loves the children. He does love the children that can see the good in them. Read the next part.
God.
But he
giveth grace unto the lowly.
Listen, he will sit back here. The ones who are humble, the ones who can sit back here and see and understand that, hey, I'm flawed too. Let me give this person a chance. Let me find the good in him because I also have issues. He'll give you grace. A second chance. He'll give you something that you might not deserve. Because that's what grace is. To begin with something you don't deserve. But if I can't see the good in the people around me, you're going to get exactly what you deserve. No mercy. Because you lack mercy. You can't see the good in your brother, you ain't getting it either. But if you can find it in your heart to see the good in your brother, despite whatever shortcomings has happened to you, then you have an opportunity for what? For grace. To be given things you might not have earned. So you might not have been perfect. You might have been flawed. You might have had mistakes. You might have had a lot of sin, and you might have done a lot of damage. But if you can see the good in your brother, you are still in the game. You have a chance to repent. And he might look at everything when everything is said and done and give you a shot. Or give you additional time to work on your issue. Or the mercy you need to obtain salvation. This is how serious working on your outlook is. And fixing that negative in your mind towards people is. It could be the determining factor between you making the kingdom and obtaining the Most High's grace or not getting any grace. It's major. And I don't think we are taught enough or conscious enough about how that judgmental, scorning, contemning, that thought pattern is keeping us back from Christ's good graces. And it would behoove us to make these adjustments if you want a shot at salvation. Let that verse go. I'm going to yell it at him. And go to Romans 2. Verse 1 through 11.
Romans chapter 2, verse 1.
Let me get there. Let's read that.
Romans chapter 2 and verse 1. Therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man, whosoever that judges.
Whosoever thou art that judges. Okay, read on.
For wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself.
He says, when you sit back here and judge another, you're really condemning yourself. When you're sitting back here and judging another, like we read in Matthew 7, you're seeing the worst in the brother around you, and you classify he or her as unfit. What this verse is saying is when you declare your brother or your husband or the sister as unfit, or your mother or your father as unfit, thou condemnest thyself. To condemn means to judge or pronounce unfit. So if you look down on the brothers around you and deem them as unfit, the Most High is saying you're unfit too. The idea of looking down on the people around you just automatically disqualifies you from being given mercy too. You're unfit like you deem them unfit. That is a scary notion. Because a lot of times we walk around here and feel better about ourselves based upon how we do what? Judge others. Our life isn't as bad because of how bad this person's life is. And the trials another person is going through makes us feel a little bit better about our crappy lives. But if you think like that, the Most High deems you unfit like you deem them unfit. Bro, listen, I don't know what to say. This is very clear. Read verse 1 again.
Romans chapter 2 and verse 1. Therefore, thou art inexcusable.
There's no excuse for judging your brother or sister and looking down on them. You have no excuse. And because that's your mindset, read on.
O man, whosoever thou art that judgest, for wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself.
When you judge another, you are now deemed unfit also. Now the Most High, as soon as you start looking at people in a negative light, he starts looking at you as a negative light. And that's the scary. Now you know there's no excuse now. When you can't see the good in your brother, all of a sudden the Most High can't see the good in you. And everything reverses and changes against you. Read on.
Verse 2. But we are sure that the judgment of the Most High is according to truth against them which commit such things.
The Most High's judgment against you is true and fair. So when the Most High sits back here and deems you unfit, and your life becomes a living hell because he deems your life unfit, he's saying the Most High's judgment is true and fair. Because one thing the Most High is not going to let us get away with is holding on to this malignant, evil heart that's inside of us. He changes your entire life and turns it to the left-hand side when you can't see the good in your people. When there's doubt and skepticism and I don't trust, and I say, listen, bro, he looks at you, don't trust you then. He don't believe in you. And that's the one thing we want the Most High to believe in us and give us opportunities. You better give your brother opportunities. You better sit back here and find the good in him and not hate and quit on him, or he gonna quit on you. And he says that verdict, that position, is true judgment from the Most High. Read on.
Verse 3. And thinkest thou this, O man, that judgest them which do such things, and doest the same? He
says, and to the person that's judging and seeing how people are unfit, but then you're sitting back here and sinning too, so you're unfit too, how are you justified being a sinner and being unfit in the eyes of Heavenly Father to sit back here and see the unfitness in somebody else? That's why he called Jacob a worm. How are we, being a worm, justified to have hatred towards another worm? We're both worms. We're both on a low level. Read on.
And thinkest thou this, O man, that judgest them which do such things, and doest the same, that thou shalt escape the judgment of the Most High?
He's telling you, you're not going to escape the judgment. You're not going to escape being checked because you have a disgust for your people. You have a disgust for the sick. That's not acceptable. And you're going to be judged based upon it. And when you have that disgust for your people, he will have a disgust for you. It's very simple. Read on.
Or despisest thou the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering, not knowing that the goodness of the Most High leadeth thee to repentance?
He's like, you have a disgust for all the love and patience and mercy he had on you, and how many years it took for people over you and him to sit back and give you chance after chance after chance to fix what's inside of you, and you can't do the same for your brother. Read that again. Because he says we despise that. We despise the process of development when we got to develop. When we got to develop Israel, we despise that process. But we sure in the hell was taking all the counsel we could take, ear vomiting for hours at a time, taking and taking and taking and taking and taking and taking and taking. But now when somebody else is taking and taking and taking, now I'm despising that. I'm despising having to lose for somebody else when somebody else was losing for you countless times, including the Most High.
I demand people be patient with me, but then now I'm in this position, or I've ascended. I can see things now for what they are, and now I can't stand seeing the weakness in others.
But he says you despise the process of what it takes to develop. You took advantage of what it took to develop for you. You took advantage of it wholeheartedly. But now it's time for you to sit back here and develop and give and lose, and now you despise it. You despise how much time you have to lose to develop somebody else. You develop all the counsels and all the repetition that it takes, but you forgot how much repetition it took to get you where you're at. And we don't expect the Most High to punish us for that type of thinking? Read it again from the top, verse 4.
Romans chapter 2 and verse 4. O despisest thou the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering?
And I'm going to say, so even if there wasn't a brother over you that put as much time into you as you're being required to give to somebody else, You know who did put the time into you? The Most High. He logged in the hours. How much dirt were we doing as Jake? That he sat back and had mercy on us. How much filth did we do in the world? That he sat back and gave us time after time after time after time to rehabilitate. And we can't do it for somebody else. So if a brother didn't do it, the Most High did it for sure. Because he could have just left you in the world to die. But he didn't. He gave you nothing but time. And now you despise the time you got to give to somebody who ain't figuring it out at the pace you think you did? What do you think the pace the Most High expected you to change at? That you failed constantly on. We constantly didn't meet the Most High's mark and expectation. And he kept forgiving us time in after time out, after time in after time out. And now we can't forgive the person who inconvenienced us for a couple weeks, a couple years. Yes, sir.
It's the same thing like that man that got for getting that dirt.
Done.
You look at that man who
Done.
him, son.
If we got time, we'll get to it, but we will not have time today. Because that's exactly in the class. Because that's how, no, you're good. You didn't know. But this is how we think. We want justice when it comes to us. But, oh, Lord, you know I've been trying, Lord. You know I'm trying. I am a man of sin. I am not a perfect man. But we hate the person that we have to wait on. That's that black-heartedness in us. And that same hatred that the Most High sees in us that justifies him turning his back on us. And that's the scary thing. This is something not to play with. This isn't a negative in us that we cannot afford to keep in our hearts. We can't. So, last time on verse 4.
Romans chapter 2 and verse 4. Or despisest thou the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering, not knowing that the goodness of the Most High leadeth thee to repentance.
The goodness of the Most High led you to repentance. His patience and his tenderheartedness and his mercy, and he sent this person in your life and that person in your life, and had these scenarios happen to you to give you a chance to change. And you can't be the same person for your brother. You don't have no patience. Read on. He's like, the journey is what leads a person to the Most High. The journey gets a person to where the Most High wants you to be. And if he chose you to be that person that develops him or her, and has to be in their path, then he chose you to be in that path to assist them. And what we're doing is we're spitting on the Most High's orders and his plan, and expect the Most High to have mercy on us with our plan. Read on.
Verse 5. But after thy hardness and impenitent heart treasures up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath.
He says your hard-heartedness, your impenitent heart, that hateful, stony heart, is treasuring up, meaning it's gathering up all this hate and all this evil outlook and all this attitude and all this filthy outlook is building up for the day of wrath. It's just stacking up. It's stacking up against the day of wrath. So at that end of the time, all that hate we've been building and feeding and manifesting is going to be there at the end. And the Most High is going to see all that wrath over your life towards your brothers and use that to justify why he's going to bring wrath to you. That's what he's saying. Read it again, verse 5.
Verse 5. But after thy hardness and impenitent heart treasures up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath.
Brother, you're feeding and building all this heap of wrath up at the day of wrath. The day where you need mercy and you need, grace. You don't have no grace and you don't have no mercy because all you got is a stockpile of hatred and wrath in your heart. And examples and works of wrath. And it cancels out
He cancels your grace.
Yes.
That's what happens.
Yes.
Brothers cancel their own grace.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Because of the hatred in our heart. And then we're going to come crying and snotting. No, I tried. Pero. You know, you seem like you're saying all these Spanish words and all these different languages. But I tried. And I was like, well, listen, bro. All of this wrath adds up. Listen, I can't hear you. I never knew you. This is what he's going to do. Read on. You have something to say?
It was like the Tower of Nimrod.
Yeah.
Same thing. Everybody built what they want to build against the Most High's plan.
Mm-hmm.
Most High said, I want people to spread out. I don't want them in one place. I don't want them coagulate over here. And he confounded languages to destroy that tower of Babylon. People stack and they're building something. The same thing goes when you're individually, with your individual actions.
Yeah.
You're building something. You're stacking something. You're creating something.
Yeah. Yes.
It reminds me of what you're saying of, to give it like a prospect for if you may not see it. Remember how the guy that was beefing with Mordecai, he was beefing with Mordecai, and he built up those gallows to go against Mordecai, and ended up going against him.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing.
Aman, yes.
Yeah, Aman. Aman was building gallows, and we're going to get him and his family, and this, that, and the third. We're going to kill him and all that other stuff, and make a public out of him. Mm-hmm. But it ended up being turned on his head. That's the exact same thing for us in the end time.
Yep. And while we're living. But at the end, all that wrath is going to catch up to you. That's a perfect example. Let's continue. Read verse 5 again.
Verse 5. But after thy hardness and impenitent heart, treasures up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of the Most High.
He's just showing you that righteous judgment is going to come up, but that judgment is going to be your death and your downfall. Read on.
Who will render to every man according to his deeds.
And this is why Christ, it was so important. It was everything that Christ had to come down and give us all the details and the secret sauce about what we've been missing this entire time. Because Israel will sit back here and hyper-focus on all these, I'm going to say it again, all these things that have nothing to do with the Spirit. And nothing to do with the building of your spirit. And this is why Christ had to show that lack of love, that hatred, all these impurities that have to get purged if we have any chance of making a kingdom. Because a lot of people can follow the law to a T and not deal with this. Then go to every ceremony and sacrifice and high holy day and not deal with this at all and wonder why they don't make the kingdom at the end. Read on.
Verse 7. To them who by patient continuance in well-doing seek for glory and honor.
Listen, our only opportunity is in patient continuance in well-doing. How long can we string our time of good works? How long can we string week after week, month after month, year after year of good works? He's giving us time to work on this thing in our spirit. Okay, we overcome that. What's the next thing? Let's work on the next thing. What's the next thing in your spirit? This is how the Most High develops us. Just going through life, working on and fixing all the things in our spirit. And at the end, we have an opportunity at glory and immortality. Because of the long work that we've committed over the years. Read verse 7 again.
Verse 7. To them who by patient continuance in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life.
That's what we should be shooting for. How long can we keep up these good works? How long can we sit back and live a life of working on this and then fixing this and then working on that and then fixing this and then working on that and fixing this? A lot of times we get so overwhelmed with the idea of change. But we don't look at change as we have an entire life to fix it. So let's stop panicking about all the changes I got to make and just start working on one change at a time. One issue at a time. Let me fix this, and let me fix that, and let me fix this, and let me fix that. Just break down all of these massive problems that you're being told you got. And let's just work on one thing at a time. and have faith and mercy that by you working at one thing at a time, the Most High will give you grace and mercy because you've been giving your time to fixing what's inside of you. If I've been in for a year, been in for 2, been in for 3, cool. Then take the time you've got so far and start working on things in your spirit. And over time, you have multiple things you would have accomplished in your fight. All the things that you're fighting are what you're presenting to the Most High at the end in hopes that you're given the kingdom and you're given immortality. Read on.
God. Verse 8. But unto them they are contentious.
But to them that are contentious, looking for fights, seeing the worst in people, always in arguments, always in a scorning, attacking, fighting. I see the abrasive nature. For those who are abrasive, always in fights, can't see the good in nothing. Read on.
It says, and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath.
For the ones who are just fueled by hate and evil outlook. Read on.
Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil.
He says tribulation and anguish goes to anybody that holds on and feeds that level of hatred and negative. That's what your reward is. Tribulation and anguish comes to the ones who can't see the good in the people around them. He says that tribulation and anguish starts on earth and it continues after you die. If that is not proper motivation to fix your outlook, I don't know what is. The tribulation and anguish starts now if you have that scornful, hateful outlook. And it just continues down the line. Read on.
Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Gentile.
Of the Jew, that pressure and that accountability is on us first, because Israel was raised in the law. They was raised to know better. And also to the Gentile, that's talking about Israelites who know who are just being taught that they're Israelites. So he says that pressure is on them too, but to them second, because they need more time to figure things out. So the Most High is very merciful and patient with how he deals with judgment. Everybody's going to get stung, but the ones who know better have to feel that weight first, and the ones who have less experience have to feel that weight second if they continue to not fix what's inside of them. Read on.
Right. But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile.
He says honor, glory, and peace to every man that can sit back here and see the good in the people around them. So once again, if you want a peaceful life, if you want a happy life, you better learn how to see the good in the people around you. But if you want a stressful, painful, uncomfortable, a life full of anguish and tribulation, keep looking at people negatively. It lets you know why homes are always messed up. Marriages are messed up because either both parties can't see the good in each other, or one person can't see the good in the other person. That's how you know the marriages are in trouble, because there's nothing but hatred and evil outlook that dominates the relationship. So if you want to keep having a tumultuous, stressful marriage, keep looking at the worst in your mate. If you want to have a great bond with everybody in the truth, practice seeing the good in one another. Practice working on the good and trying to inspire your brothers to be the best version of themselves that they can be. That's our job. That's our responsibility. If we can do that, the Most High will continue to bless us. Let's see how much time we got. I don't know. Should I keep going? That's not going to work. We're going to shut it down. Are there any questions? Israel, to Water tuning in. See y'all on Wednesday. There'll be class. Shalom.